All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Geek Garage podcast. I am your host, as per usual, David. We are on episode number 60. Fuck, we're getting old. All right, we're well over the hill, and I think we're coming down on the other side here. Today we are talking cosplay, and it's about damn time. One, because tis the season, sorta, kinda. I mean, it's supposed to be the season, but of course, basically everything has been canceled, unfortunately. Hopefully, everything will be back together normal next year, this time next year. But also, it's been a while for us that we've done a cosplay episode. It's definitely been over a year since we did our last cosplay episode, so it is about damn time. And that is actually a good segue for introducing my guest today. First of all, of course, you haven't heard the sultry voice of Ted White, who usually joins me. He has the evening off today. But joining me is my good friend, Gabe Silva. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Hey, thank you for letting me join.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast. So we've been, I guess, internet buddies. If
Yeah, I
for
think that's a good way of saying it. Yeah.
I think so too. So like, we were talking about this before we hit record, but we've been quote unquote internet buddies for the last, I'd say, at least 2 years, maybe
I think
three.
I think
Uh,
two, 3 is about right. Yeah.
yeah, and we met through the Spidey Society Facebook group. It's
Yep.
a group full of it's basically everything, a celebration of Spider-Man and of course Miles Morales and all the adjacent Spider-Man characters. And it's very heavy with cosplay, with prop and costume making, designing. There's plenty of movie discussion and whatnot. So it's, like I said, just a huge kind of like celebration of everything Spidey. And and I, I don't know, it was, I guess you just popped up, you commented on one of my posts one day, and like you seemed, not to put anyone else down, but you, I don't know, you kind of stuck out as like the cool guy, and I was like, I'm gonna talk to this guy. And then I kind of got to know you, and I got to know the fact that you're into cosplay a lot more than I am,
Yes.
in
Yes.
several different facets, and that's what makes you a great guest for this episode. So of course it's not necessarily going to be Spider-Man specific,
hmm
in terms of cosplay, this episode, but it will come up here and there. But you do regard yourself as like a a cosplayer and costume and prop maker for not just Spider-Man, but for all other fandoms, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd say it's like overall just a cosplay prop maker. I would consider myself.
Okay,
I do specialize a lot into the Spider-Man stuff, mainly because that's like my social media following. It's primarily for my Spider-Man stuff. But I
sure.
do a lot of stuff like on the side.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. I yeah, looking at some of your stuff, I was like, I don't know how that's done. Yeah, you kind of work on another level that I could only fathom. And just some of the stuff that you've shown me, like renderings and designs. And you said you don't use Photoshop, you use something else. What was the program you say to use?
Yeah, so recently I started getting into pattern making for costumes. So I
Uh-huh.
actually use Affinity Designer. It's
Okay.
kind of basically exactly like Photoshop, just like 10 times cheaper. It's like
Sure.
$25 compared to like the
Oh
200
wow.
whatever Photoshop is. So
Oh
yeah, and it works just as fine.
yeah, and that's what's important is the ease of use and the power behind its tools. I mean, as long as it works for you and it gets the job done for you, then that's pretty much the only thing that matters, right?
Yeah, couldn't ask
Yeah.
for more over that.
Right. So I guess let's just go ahead and dive right into it. we have a bunch of talking points lined up, and I'm going to try and get through them all, and hope that it doesn't bore you and or our dear listeners. So, listeners, if you make it to the finish line, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, we appreciate you hanging on. So yeah, we're just gonna dive right into it, and
Sounds like a plan.
yeah. So what would you say, like, as abstract and weird of a question it is to say what does cosplay mean to you, what would you say it means to you? And and what was it about cosplay that like initially piqued your interest?
So cosplay to me really it's just another extension to art in general. It allows us as like the regular consumers, the people that read comic books or watch movies or play video games. It allows us to embody the characters that we admire and we love, and we get to grow with and just self express ourselves through that character. I think it's a just pretty cool to be able to do that. And then what piqued my interest, honestly, it kind of just happened out of nowhere. Like one day I was on Instagram, I think, and I just randomly saw somebody like in a Spider-Man costume. I'm like, what
Yeah.
people actually do that? Like it never crossed my mind that somebody would like try to professionally like become this character.
Right.
So and then like of course I knew about like Comic Cons and stuff like that, but it really never like crossed my mind that people went out of their way to create costumes and become these characters. And then once I saw that, it just went off from there. I decided, you know what, I'm gonna try to do my best to make the best costumes and represent my characters the best I could. And I mean that's how I got here. So
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's eerily similar to how it kind of happened with me. Like you said, you knew about, like, New York Comic Con, San Diego Comic Con, Dragon Con, like the really big ones that you hear about all across the U.S. and the world and whatever. But it doesn't really register that like your quote unquote normal people like cosplay. Like you see when you go to a convention, like all walks of life are cosplaying, and that's kind of what I experienced firsthand the first time that I saw it, like, in person. Like I went to an anime convention here in Middle Tennessee, where the convention, compared to like the bigger ones like San Diego Comic Con, is pretty small. It just happens at one venue instead of like several. And if you weren't in cosplay, you are the odd man out. So
oh
like,
wow.
unless you're like one of the convention volunteers where you have to be in plain clothes so you're like easily spotted,
Hmm.
uh, or uh, or you're like a photographer, or someone doing press where like you have to, like, once again, be recognizable, or just, I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is that it's, you know, I went to that convention with some buddies of mine, and I was filming some video for them, and I felt very out of place just being in like jeans and a t-shirt. I was like, what the hell? So I went to like Party City that night after the convention and just bought like some random shit to like put together this haphazard costume. And like I came back the next day and they're like, who the hell are you supposed to be? I was like, I don't know. I just made up some character.
So I just want
uh,
to be somebody.
right. Yeah. And then it wasn't until the next year where I finally, went full regalia uh, and, spent some money on a costume. So yeah. So what was your first cosplay? Do you remember?
My first one was probably like 2 years ago. I just did the homecoming suit, the one that Tony Stark gives Peter.
Sure.
Um, it was like the first time, or just the first time in general, I ever got a costume outside of like Halloween.
Okay.
But I tried to go the extra mile to like do like the black banding on it and like the 3D spiders and stuff. It did
Right.
not turn out so great. So that costume has been lost with time. And I,
Oh,
I just I look back at it and I appreciate the beginning. And it also like kind of shows me how far I've gone from
right.
there. So I mean, as far as the first cosplay, really I can't say I went too wrong because it got me to where I am now.
Exactly, and that's the like, other than, the sadness that might come with it, uh, that's how you have to look at it, is a learning experience. Like, you have to have those major fuck ups, in order to learn and move on in the positive direction.
Oh, for sure, because I know for a fact that I've made so many mistakes with that suit. Like I
Right.
have super glue like all over the suit.
Oh
I've
man.
had like rip seams that I tried to sew together that did not work, and then I ended up
Oh.
super gluing them together. So that suit is just a mess. But it
Do you
definitely
still? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it definitely it taught me a lot of things that now I know as far as like future costumes and stuff like that. I know, not to make those same mistakes. So
Right.
everything is valuable.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Do you still get any use out of it, like in terms of wearing it, or is it kind of just like tucked away and serve as a reminder, as a benchmark?
Pretty much just serves as a reminder. It's
Yeah.
been like sitting in the farthest depths of my closet space. So I barely even like it doesn't see the light of day, to be honest.
Sure. Yeah, I get that. With the banding and the like the beveled spider on the front, did you attempt to do those yourself?
Yeah, so I just because whenever you buy like a Spider-Man costume, you typically buy a pattern unless you
Mhm.
go like through a website like Sentai Zone where they
Right.
provide the patterns. You just pay like a little bit extra for the suit. So I went into the pattern that I had bought and I tried to like trace around it. So I literally took pieces of paper, put it on my computer screen, and like over it. So and then I transferred it to I think it was I forgot what it was called, but it was like a sheet of like rubber. It was like a quarter inch maybe thick,
Okay.
and then I would trace it, cut it with an X-Acto knife, and then try to glue it on myself. And doing that yourself, I learned is very hard, and
Yeah.
I don't recommend it. So I would recommend getting somebody to help you
Yeah, I've wanted to get. I don't know if what you were using is like the same as like foam smithing. That foam smithing is kind of something that I've been wanting to get into for like the last year or so, but I am terrified of like the money suck that it most definitely will become, because I know I'm gonna mess a bunch of stuff up in the beginning, and and just be a disastrous like hole in my wallet
out.
at the very end. But I don't know. Maybe I'll take the plunge and it'll I'll end up, a halfway decent foam smither. Uh,
Hey, you never know unless you try.
right, exactly. So, what's been your favorite cosplay so far,
Um,
or a few of your favorites?
Yeah, so my last one that like is 100% complete because I start so many projects and then like never end up finishing them.
Right,
But
just like everyone else.
yeah, pretty much, yeah. So my last one was like I made my own Spider-Man costume, so I made my own design. With
Mhm,
like Into the Spider-Verse, everybody went crazy with creating their own Spider Sona.
mhm.
So I ended up making my own, and then I had this pattern designer, Web Warriors Workshop. He actually made the pattern. I got that shipped out with Zentai Zone, and then they sewed it up for me.
Okay.
And the design, it was my personal design, so I think obviously that's going to be my favorite. But I think it
Right.
just came out super cool. I made like a custom shell for it, like with my own custom eyes.
Right.
Like the spiders, the design, like in general, is just mine. So I'm just proud of it. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
that's my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned the face shell, for the uninitiated. We should probably talk about like the extra parts, like the face shell, that a lot of people don't really know about, and you could probably do a much better job of explaining what a face shell is and what its purposes are. So you wanna do that?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things when I first like got into cosplay and I like looked around and see other people in their costumes is I always wondered how their head shape was always so like perfectly like it
Right.
just looked like Spider Man.
Yeah.
So and then I researched into it, and people make these things called face shells, which is practically just a plastic shell, or depending on who you get it from, it could be foam. It could be like a more flexible, maybe like ABS or PETG, which is just different types of plastic.
Mhm.
Um, so all it essentially is something you wear on your face underneath the fabric mask that'll help you keep the shape, and then it allows you to make your lenses like magnetic, so you can put magnets in them, so
Yep.
it fits to your face perfectly and will never fall off. And it doesn't mean that you have to glue them onto the mask. So if you ever want to interchange them or use a different shell, it's totally possible with that.
Right. Yeah, and I've only been cosplaying with face shells. Like when I think I talked to you, I talked to several others in the Spidey Society Facebook group. Some other friends, they kind of walked me through the customization process, and like everyone, like across the board, advocated for face shells, for basically all the same reasons that you just mentioned, like the fact that it makes like your face look just so much better, like kind of like you said, like you actually look like Spider-Man from the movie, where you know I mean, if you have like an odd shaped face or head, or if you have like ears that poke out a little too
Hmm.
far, like it also helps with that. And with the interchangeability of the lenses, like just all that kind of like sold me. I mean, it's they can definitely be a little bit pricey,
Yeah.
but I mean, in my opinion, like if you're gonna go for the cosplay thing, like you might as well go all out and try and you know try and do it justice, as much as you can. um
Yeah, I like to consider like the face shell as kind of like the cherry on top of like any Spider-Man costume.
right.
Some people can get away with not having them. I've
Right.
seen people that don't use face shells and their head shape just looks like phenomenal underneath masking. But then there's people like me, that my head does not look so great underneath the fabric mask. So I needed a solution for that. So then I That's how I kind of went into designing and making my own face shells.
Right. Cool. um what so what whenever you do cosplay, like what are some of the things you like to do? Do you like to go to conventions, or do you do photo shoots, or
Um,
parties?
yeah, so obviously conventions. Everybody that cosplay should go to conventions. They're just
Hmm.
great experiences. You get to meet like super like-minded people. You get
Hmm.
just just the experience of walking a con floor, seeing all the costumes, being able to
Yep.
buy you know comic books off like the vendors, like the comic book shops, to go there and whatnot, and then
Right.
collectibles. It's just an awesome experience, and I recommend it for anybody, even if you're not cosplaying. Because
Yeah.
my first convention, I didn't cosplay. That's how like I got introduced to it, on like a bigger scale.
Right.
And then every single con after that, I went in costume, and I don't regret it at all.
Yeah.
Um, I definitely do photo shoots. I haven't done one in a very long time, to be honest.
Hmm.
Really because, like I said, I start so many projects and then I just never complete them, or I get like sidetracked with my face show work or my, just prop making work in general. So I haven't had much time for that. And parties, I've only ever done one, and it was my niece's, and I was
Okay.
in the costume for like 15 minutes tops. So it was just like, hey, I'm your uncle, and I'm Spider Man for today. And then I left.
so so she knew who you were, basically.
At first, no, but then I took off the mask because I was like, I was
Okay.
dehydrated as heck, so
Sure.
I had to take it off to drink. And then she was like, "Oh, it's you."
Yeah,
Never
it
reveal your
happens.
identity. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, like kind of like you said, like some people get like really into it, and then other people are just casual. Like I'm definitely on the casual side. I don't get like super into the character and like try and method act as Peter Parker slash Spider-Man or any other character that I'm cosplaying. Like I'll wear the suit, but I'll pose for photos if
Mhm.
people want to take a photo, or if I'm participating in like a Marvel shoot or a Marvel versus DC shoot. Those happen a lot at the conventions that I go to. But other than that, like, but some people get like really into it. Like they'll walk by me as their character, like maybe some creepy dude from like some anime, and they're like, Spider-Man always has to wear his mask, and I'm like, ah, like just come up right behind me, like weird, like charactery, no, like accent, and I'm just
Yeah.
like I'll be standing there like trying to record some video for some friends or whatever, and yeah, it's just one of those funny things.
Yeah,
So
I think most of us had like experiences like that. So like
yeah.
I even though like I do take it a little bit more seriously as far as like, you know, making the items for other people and whatnot and even for
Hmm.
myself, I wouldn't say that I go that deep into like trying to be the character. I
Sure.
just kind of like, you know, visually embody the character.
Right.
Um, so like I've had it at cons where like I would be walking around and then like a Deadpool or something would come up and like do some like weird thing that they probably saw in
Uh-huh.
like a comic, and I'm
Right.
just like, uh, all right, dude, like like I really don't know what to do. I just kind of stand there. Um,
You just have
so,
to do that thing from that GIF where it's like Spidey and Deadpool on the con floor, and they're just going around in circles, and like Spidey's doing his web thing. You know what I'm talking about?
right, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like the Spider-Man cosplay doesn't necessarily lend itself to a lot of like character acting and method acting as the character. Um, just because I mean, like he's a very charismatic character,
yeah,
obviously, but it's it's not it's not like the same as Deadpool. Like
right.
you kind of get that. Like Deadpool is like this very
Like over the top and just,
yes.
you know, like just all over the place. Like you never know what to expect.
Exactly. So yeah, like Spider-Man is definitely not on that level, but
Most you
uh
could really do in that case is just like, you know, you drop down, do a couple poses, and you
right.
know, high five the kids. But other than that, there's not much to it other than like maybe potentially like fighting burglars or something like that. But other than that, that's there's not much to it.
Right, yeah. Is there any like cosplays that you've done that you regret for whatever reason? I mean, uh
I don't think I regret anything. The only thing I'd say I'd regret is, you know, starting so many things and not finishing
sh-
them.
sure.
But other than that, no. I think everything that I've made and completed, I've been pretty happy with.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't think I haven't been cosplaying for long enough and haven't I don't have enough costumes to say that I have one that I regret.
Gotcha.
Um so yeah. Um s- uh, one of the one of the things about cosplay, or several things, but there's several things about cosplay that like the general public don't really know. Well, um like like a lot of people just don't get it. Like I think most everyone in like the nerd community that celebrates video games and comic books and movies, etc., like they get cosplay. Like maybe they don't do it, but they get it and they appreciate it.
Uh huh.
But there's definitely like some people like that are kind of like nerd adjacent, where they're like into football and like maybe your stereotypical jock stuff, but they play like Madden on Xbox or whatever.
Uh
So
huh.
they're kind of like quote unquote nerd adjacent, and they go see like the MCU movies. And these
Yeah.
people like they will say that they don't get cosplay.
Hmm.
Um w- would you say that there's some common like misconceptions or misunderstandings about cosplay that you hear that come up quite often, or often enough to make mental note of it, or anything?
I think just in general, people don't get it, or they really don't understand like why we do these things. I think they just think that we're a little bit weird.
Hmm.
And I've gotten that a couple of times. So, like for example, um, if like say one of my coworkers finds out that I do stuff like that, it might like rub them a little weird at first, and then like when I
Sure.
explain it and like I tell them that I try like to make a business out of it, and I do it to, you know, show my love for the characters and whatnot. I guess they kind of understand it a little bit more, but I think just from the outside perspective, I think it's just always going to be a little bit weird to people that just don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's kind of been my experience too for the people that don't get it, because I used to be one of those people, honestly. Like
Yeah,
if we're speaking honestly, like, several years ago, like I knew about cosplay, but I either I didn't spend enough time like trying to wrap my head around it, or really try and get to know someone that did cosplay. So I didn't really get it. And so I ended up spending a lot of time around cosplayers when, I went to my first couple of conventions, and I got a so much better idea of what it's all about and all the different levels of cosplay that there is. Like, kind of like what I was saying earlier about, there being the more casual cosplayers where they will celebrate that character being wear their costume, but they won't necessarily like act out that character. But then there's people on the opposite end of the spectrum that go full method with their character,
yeah,
because I find in those instances, like, people spend a lot of time on their costume and like researching their character, and it's just one of their favorite characters from whatever, from a comic book or a movie or a video game, and so they're just like really into it, and yeah, like I think that the people that don't get cosplay, and maybe are like unwilling, or don't really want to learn, like they like to put cosplayers in that category, that very far extreme category, and I use the term extreme, is definitely not as derogatory.
yeah.
Extreme as in like, take it to the max, like are very very passionate about their character or characters that they cosplay as. So I feel like that's happened a lot, where people that don't really get cosplay, they kind of see everyone in that particular category.
Yeah, no, I totally get that because like even like I'd say for me, as just like I said, like casual cosplayer, I probably would be considered from an outside perspective as somebody that is just going like full on in, like that I pretend like that I'm the character, I could jump off buildings and swing and whatnot.
Right.
When the reality of it is that I'm just a dude that likes, wearing a costume and celebrating the person that I love, and um, just bringing joy to other people while doing it uh, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm like full on in there,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Is Spider Man the only character that you've cosplayed, or have you done others?
For me personally, I've only done Spider-Man stuff because
Okay.
that's like my specialty.
Sure.
But I have worked with other people, so I've helped people with some Halo stuff, some Star Wars stuff.
Okay.
I did start, and I unfortunately didn't finish it, but I wanted to do a character from Destiny, not a
Okay.
specific character, but just like a set of armor from it.
Sure.
So I started building some of the weapons, but I never really got to light a day with that because that's when I was in college,
Gotcha.
and between like schoolwork and whatnot, I ended up losing stuff when I moved out of my dorm. So I just never went back to it. But hopefully one day, I'm trying to get back into that.
Right. Yeah. And that's actually a perfect place to kind of segue into our second segment, just talking a little bit about your cosplay and DIY experience.
Hmm.
Um, this initially was going to be like a whole episode on like DIY stuff when it comes to cosplay, but I think it's definitely turning into more of a multi-purpose, variety cherry pick kind of cosplay kind of thing, which is, in my opinion, a little bit cooler.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about your own personal experience with making stuff either for yourself or for other people. So when would you say you first started making costumes and props for yourself, and for others?
So I think I officially started it like taking it seriously maybe about last year. So it's
Okay.
been like about a year now. I did take breaks in between, but that was mainly more for me to to build more products as far as like my face shells or like anything like as far as weapons or whatnot for other people that I officially don't list on my page,
Hmm.
but I do help other people with. So I'd say about like a year.
Okay, cool. And so like I guess we kind of answered this question already. Like the kinds of costumes and props you make. Can you talk a little bit about those? And if you have a specialty, I mean, I'd say like your specialty is probably Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But like you talked a little bit about that, and some Halo and Destiny and other stuff. Is there any others that you haven't mentioned?
Yeah, so like you said, my specialty would be Spider-Man stuff. So as far as like the face shells, web shooters, stuff like that.
Hmm.
But then I do stuff from video games and movies. So I've done Star Wars stuff, like a couple lightsaber hilts.
Okay.
I've done a little bit stuff from gaming. One that I didn't mention before is Mortal Kombat. I fucking love Mortal Kombat.
Hell
Um,
yeah, hell
so
yeah.
anything from Mortal Kombat, I freaking love. I started working on models for the newest Mortal Kombat 11's Noob Saibot costume because it just looks fucking insane, and I,
Uh-huh.
I want to make that one day so badly. But I don't think my sewing skills for all that is up to par yet. But I'll get
Sure.
there. I'll get there one
Yeah,
day.
absolutely. Quick question. On a scale from 9 to 10, how fucking terrible but terribly awesome is the original Mortal Kombat movie?
Oh, I'd say like 10,000. Those those movies were so bad that they were good.
Yeah.
Um,
No,
the
they
only oh sorry,
sorry, no, go ahead.
I think the only good thing about the original Mortal Kombat movie was Kerry Tagawa, who played Shang Tsung, because
Oh yeah.
he's just perfect for that role. And I was so happy when they brought him back for Mortal Kombat 11 because
Right.
he was perfect. I love that
Yeah.
guy.
No, he did do a pretty good job as far as acting performances go. Like, I mean, overall in that movie, uh, it, it's a movie not known for its acting performances.
Yeah,
um,
no.
Although there was some very interesting and kind of coincidentally hilarious scenes with Raiden.
Oh
Like
God,
he like
yeah.
like when he just magically appears on the boat before like they're about to sail off to wherever this island is.
Uh-huh.
Like he just magically appears, and like he literally tells a dad joke, and he's like and like you know what I'm talking about. Like
Yeah.
yeah, he like I forget what he says, but he's like you're gonna die when you see this place or something like that. It's just completely ridiculous. And and he's like, and he like clears his throat. He's like, anyways,
It's
I'm
so
like,
bad.
right. I'm like, how the fuck did this movie get made? Like, did they not stop for a second and be like, you know what? Maybe not. Like, maybe we don't do this movie.
Now they just wanted it out. They're like,
Right.
that joke fucking sucked, but let's just do it. Let's do it, push it through.
Right, basically, yeah. So while we're on the topic of props and costumes and all that, can you tell me a little bit about like your process for making and designing your costumes and props and like the tools that you use?
Yeah, for sure. So everything that I do, I need like 1,010 reference pictures from every angle possible. Just whatever I can get to get as much detail in, the better. Um, so luckily for my most recent work, I was recreating some of the Spider-Man stuff from the PS4 game
Okay.
for the Vance costume, which is the one with like the white spiders and like
Right.
the armbands and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So luckily, the game has like a photo mode, so you could go in, you could take as many like screenshots as you want,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
upload it to Twitter, and then pull it from there. Um,
Yeah.
the only reason why I have Twitter, to be honest. Um, so and then you just go from there. I use a program called Blender, which is a
Right.
free 3D modeling program.
Hmm.
And then I throw in all my references and just pretty much just mash it all together from there. Just trying to reference every angle from side view, top view, the portrait, straightforward or whatnot, and just trying to get it as like accurate as possible.
Right. And you use a 3D printer, correct?
Yeah, so I have a couple 3D printers. So I have, I think, three now. Two of them are,
Oh, looks like we got a badass over
yeah.
here.
um, no, my first one doesn't even work anymore. It's literally in pieces, and one day I'll go back and fix it, but not
Right.
anytime soon. And I'm only using one now because I moved into a new apartment and I don't really have everything all set up like I
Sure.
want it. So I don't have my workshop space all together right now. But I'm doing what I can with one printer.
Right.
But yeah, as far as that, so what I do is I just 3D model everything in Blender. Once I get everything, spick and span like I want to, as accurate as possible. You essentially just throw it into this program that slices it all together, and the printer gets code, and you put it on a SD card, and you set it to print, and then you pray to the 3D printing gods that they do not fail, because that is like 110% of the time that you spend is your printer not working.
Oh
Um,
man.
so it's a gamble. It helps, but at the same time, it's super frustrating.
Right. Yeah, I've heard some horror stories just from, like, even if things go like relatively according to plan, or there's not really any mishaps, like the wait times alone, like it's not like, oh man, like it takes too long. It's like, because you're on the edge of your seat for that period of time, like just anticipating some sort of miscommunication or mess up on the printer's part, and then all of a sudden, like, all this waiting and hard work is now ruined. So yeah, like I said, I've definitely heard some horror stories. uh
Yeah, it's pretty bad sometimes. So like, just like an example for the face shell, the lenses itself take about like 4 or 5 hours to print, but the shell
wow.
itself, because it's a lot bigger of an
Mhm.
item, it takes about like 20 to 24 hours to print.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so if you don't have patience, I would not recommend doing it. And honestly, that's not even like at the highest quality setting that you could put it on. I tend to like keep it at like a middle point where I
Okay.
get a good time frame, which would be like the 24-hour mark. Um,
Okay.
and then so that the quality is good enough that I won't have to do a lot of post processing work, which there is a lot of work afterwards that you still have to do on
Hmm.
top of all of the printing time. So it's not as simple as just plugging, playing, like plug the SD card in, pressing the button, getting it, and then bam, you're done. There's still a lot more to do on top of the initial printing time.
Right. Yeah. What's so I know little to nothing about 3D printers. I know that they are a thing,
Yeah,
and they do exactly that. They 3D print stuff.
yeah.
So like, what what are the materials like that you use? Like, I mean, I'm assuming, are there different like kinds of materials, like different kinds of plastics or whatnot that you like feed into this machine?
Yeah, so you get like rolls of plastic. It's all pretty much just plastic that you can buy. It's
Okay.
rolled up. So there is pretty much three basic types that you typically start with. PLA, which is like your basic plastic. It's like your go-to, but it's not like the best thing.
Mhm.
Um, so it's really just regular plastic. It gets pushed into the machine and then it prints it out according to whatever layers that you have with the slicer, and it pushes it all through. So and then there's another one that I would say is a step above it, which is called PETG or PETG.
Okay.
It's just a more durable plastic, and it's less temperament with like hot temperatures. So say for example,
Gotcha.
if you left it in a car, it won't deform because you left it in there for too long and the heat just got to it.
Mm,
It'll survive a lot longer. And then a step above that, actually, there's two more that I could mention. ABS, which is like everything that you pretty much get from China is made out of
Sh-
ABS.
sure.
So it's another basic plastic, but it's really strong, um, and it's not something that would typically break really easily.
Right.
But it is a lot harder to print with because you need to print at a much higher temperature and you need to keep temperature in. So you need like an enclosure for that, and for a lot of people, that's not really like a good option because you need to keep as much space as you can for some of us. So
Yeah.
um, and then there's a last one called a TPU, which is pretty much like I don't even know how to explain it. It's just squishy plastic.
Okay.
It's just like PLA, but you can actually like it's flexible. So if you
Hmm.
want to like say for example, there's a lot of people that print out these like little octopuses, um,
Okay.
but it's just like a regular like small little octopus that has like all its arms spread out, but it's
Sure.
made so that when you print it out in TPU, you can like squish the top of the head and the legs swivel and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it's a really interesting plastic to print with. It's a lot harder to print with, and you can't really do much post processing to it. It's kind of like what you print out is really what you get.
Right. Yeah. Uh, I'm well. That's a lot.
Yeah,
I'm that's awesome though. Like that you have that it's not just like here you have plastic, put it in this machine and push play.
yeah,
Like I mean, like you there's different options. It seems like there's a you have a couple different quote unquote correct options for whatever you're wanting to make. So if
mhm,
you're wanting to make like a really durable face shell, then you use like X plastic, or
yeah,
if you're wanting to make this prop that doesn't need to be that same kind of material, you use another one. So
yeah. It's
that's
really versatile. So whatever you know, like you said, whatever you need, you have so many options that you could always do something. You always figure it out.
right. Is there something that you are like the most proud of that's come out of one of your 3D printers?
I'd say honestly, just like my face shells in general.
Okay,
I think it's just like my quote unquote crowning achievement
sure.
as a prop maker because I think that they're like as accurate as can be.
Right.
Um, so I don't know. It's cool seeing something that you put so much time into on the computer and then see it like being fabricated in real life on this
Right.
desktop printer. It's insane.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Like, I mean, I've made stuff before. Like, I sent you a picture of the podcast T-shirts that I made over the weekend.
Hmm.
But that's like a T-shirt. Like it out of my wife's Cricut machine. It cut out the vinyl, and I just stuck that vinyl on the shirt and ironed it on.
Yeah,
There wasn't much to it, but like I can't imagine like putting hours and hours and hours of work into designing something that like most people would be like, okay, the finished product is going to live on the computer and it's going to
yeah,
be like on a website or in an application or software or whatever. But no, like you're not even fucking done yet. Like you got to feed it through the machine, and the
yep,
machine's got to make it, and it's got to make it correctly. And
yeah,
then if all that goes off without a hitch, relatively speaking, you're left with like this physical product that you can hold in your hand, and I just cannot imagine like how gratifying and satisfying it is to have that finished product, like that literal work of art, like you said, just to hold it in your hands and have it be like tactile.
yeah. It's. I mean, it doesn't seem like much. I'd assume like from the outside perspective, but just being somebody that like you said, it takes so much time into putting into these models and trying to get it just right, and then eventually seeing it come to life. It's like, I mean, as a person that doesn't have kids, they're kind of like my little babies because
Yeah, exactly.
it's something that I put so much into, and being able to see the outcome, and it's just it feels rewarding.
Yeah, and it should. Like honestly, like it should be very rewarding. You spend so much time and effort and money on this, one thing to kind of perfect it as well as you can, and to have it come out looking really good and you being satisfied with it enough to like, want to keep it for yourself and or sell it to others, and try and make a business out of it. Like, it's just crazy. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
mean, when I got into it, my first 3D printer, to be honest, I bought it with the intentions of like just printing out a couple of things, like just random crap around the house, or if I saw
sure.
like a cool model online,
Mhm.
I'd just be like, oh yeah, I'll just print it. It'll be something cool to have. But then I realized the potential of being able to create things, and not even for myself, but for others, and um, I guess even to like just not even like the monetization of it,
Mhm.
just the fact that I'm building something, I'm helping somebody create something that will let them you know express themselves for whatever they want to go for. In
Yeah.
my example, Spider-Man. Um,
Yeah.
so in overall, I think the 3D printers, even if I didn't make like the return on the money for purchasing them, I think what I've gotten out of it has been worth it alone.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I just, I mean, I said I can't imagine the satisfaction of doing that. Like, doing uh, using a 3D printer to print face shells and lenses and all that. Like, no, I definitely don't know what it's like to have that kind of satisfaction. But I do know what it's like to spend countless hours of my precious time that could be delegated elsewhere to like sleeping and health.
Yeah. Oh,
But
I do miss sleeping.
right. Yeah, but instead you stay up nights because you work all damn day, and
Hmm.
you're finally home and you want some time to yourself, but you also want to like dedicate time to your crafts and your hobbies and like getting better at them. And yeah, it's just incredibly rewarding, as to have it work out positively every once in a while. So
Yeah.
yeah. So when we were texting last week, when we were kind of setting up this episode, I asked you about a couple talking points that you might want to discuss, because I didn't want to come up with like everything that we talk about.
Yeah.
So you did have a couple things that you wanted to chat about. Do you want to cover those now?
Yeah, for sure. So as far as the 3D printing community that kind of merges into the prop making community,
Hmm.
there I don't know if it's as like relevant now because I haven't seen much of it as of recently, but there is a lot of talks of like whether 3D printing is considered quote unquote cheating
Hmm.
as far as in prop making, because I think a lot of people when they see a 3D printer they think, oh, you just found a model online, you just print it out, and you reap the benefits.
Right.
When a lot of people don't know that a lot of work is put into like modeling and stuff like that, especially if the person that printed the stuff is the maker,
Hmm.
like myself. So I don't. I personally don't consider it cheating because I know how much I put into it.
Right.
There are other peoples that do just like buy models and print them out from there. I still don't consider it cheating because they're putting into the work of waiting for the printer
Yeah.
to work properly and waiting for it to print out and then post processing afterwards, like sanding and painting and all that. But I guess I can understand a little bit why people feel that way. But there's so much going on that if you don't like personally do it, you wouldn't understand, and I'd see why it's considered cheating. But there's just too much for it to be quote unquote cheating, I think.
Right. Yeah, like, I mean, you can try and make the argument that wearing a pre-made costume, something that someone else made, rather than like making something yourself and then wearing it as your cosplay, you could one could try and make an argument that
Yeah.
the former is cheating, but like how do you cheat at cosplay? Like
Yeah.
there's no such thing. Like, it's fucking stupid. Like, you can't cheat at cosplay. Like someone made that suit for someone to wear. So
Right.
like you can't cheat at cosplay. So and to me it's dumb as fuck to say that like 3D printing would be cheating in terms of like prop making or costume making, because like, like you said, like too much hard work goes into it. Like, even if just like you said a second ago, even if you get like a model online somewhere that you had to put little to no effort into, and you just kind of send it to the printer, like you still have to wait for it, and then any finishing touches you want to do to it afterwards.
Hmm.
I'm sure it still takes skill and effort and time, and resources to put into it. So yeah, it's, I don't know.
I
Like
think it's definitely an upper hand. I know for a fact with me, if I were to try to like, because there's a lot of people that do make face shells out of like foam, and even people that make it out of cardboard and make really like impressive face shells with that. I know personally I wouldn't be able to. So
mhm,
luckily I had like the 3D modeling experience to be able to make it and then print it out like that. So I guess I could kind of see that. Um,
right.
but I still think at the end of the day, like we have to make sure our printer is working, and that's like the biggest thing that nobody else has to worry about. And
Right.
then we have to have the patience to wait for it to print out. So yeah, there's just too much behind 3D printing to try to downplay it as cheating, because we're still putting as much, if not more, effort into actually making things than the old fashioned way.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Have I mean, you've probably seen these face shells. Like, the majority of it is, the traditional quote unquote plastic or whatever hard plastic
Hmm.
material. But the bottom part, like I guess the jaw, I don't know where exactly it stops going up the face, but
Yeah,
like it made out of a different, more movable material, so you can act like you can talk with it and it
yeah,
moves with your mouth, so that like, because with the uh, your traditional run of the mill face shell, I would say like 98% of them, it's, covering your entire face. So people can hear you talk, but they don't
yeah.
see your mouth move.
Hmm.
But so I'm assuming you've seen these face shells that have like the different material for the jaw. So like your mouth moves with it.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a new thing that's been rolling around a lot. I
Mhm.
think the Homecoming movie is kind of like spurred it.
Sure.
Even I think it was the Amazing Spider-Man 2 was the first one like in production, like movie production wise, that actually did a moving jaw.
Okay.
So essentially, it's kind of just like regular face shells. So it's like the plastic, like facial portion, so like from the cheekbone up, and
Mhm.
then the jaw down is another separate part. That on top of that is a piece of fabric that is glued to the top shell. it's
Mhm.
it's it's really like confusing. Um, but they glue them together so that like the fabric will just stretch and then keep the two plastic pieces kind of like hinged together.
Right.
And that's a lot of people in the 3D printing community, as far as the face shells are doing. Like and Andre Blend on Instagram, he's one of the people that I'm really close with as far as facial modelers. I can't speak. Sorry. That he's been doing that a lot for his shells, and actually inspired me to start doing that for some of my newer shells. And I successfully did it with my advanced suit face shell for the PS4
Okay.
game, and it is a lot trickier than it looks to actually do it.
Dude,
But
I can imagine.
yeah, it's just getting like the fabric on top. It's super wonky, and mine probably looks so much worse than everybody else's. But I mean, it works, and so like when I'm talking, you could see the jaw move, and it's like uncanny a little bit um,
Right.
to see something like that, almost like movie production level, with just regular people like me. uh,
Right, yeah, cuz like I can imagine that if you put two people together, someone that like has that face shell with the movable jaw or
mhm.
whatever you want to call that piece, and then someone without a face shell with just the fabric mask.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that if they were to speak the same sentences, that the facial movements would look a little different, right?
Yeah, so yeah, with somebody with just a solid shell, like a static shell,
Hmm.
all you really see is like, a static face.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not really gonna move.
Yeah.
But somebody with the movable jaw, when they talk, you'll actually see the jaw go up and down. It might not be super noticeable at times because it's something that would have to be very specifically scaled for somebody.
Hmm.
So, for example, with me, I kind of have the advantage of, since I made the model, I can model it around my head and make
Right.
sure that it's like perfectly, like it'll sit against my chin. So whenever I say anything, the slightest movement, you'll see it move. Um, so if you get the scaling right, if somebody like buys it and they have like the perfect scaling for it, then you'll be able to see it. But other than that, maybe if you like open your mouth like completely wide, then you'll see it. um, but it really depends. You have to get like that specific custom tailoring for that. Just like people get custom tailoring for their like Spider-Man costumes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Man, those face shells are nuts.
Yeah.
Sorry, I feel like we've kind of turned the podcast into like Spider-Man happy hour.
Yeah.
But like, it's all, relative information for DIY cosplay. I feel like,
Mhm.
we're hitting the highlights and the broad notes and, broad spectrum kind of stuff.
Yeah.
A couple other things that I feel like you made mention of that you wanted to discuss. You talked about like the pros and cons of being a prop maker and making a name for yourself and your business, like kind of putting yourself out there and trying to make your side hustle as a prop maker and a costume designer, as like a reputable business or
Yeah.
side business.
Yeah. So I mean, just in general, getting into prop making, it's something. um it could start as a hobby, but if you want to potentially make it into something, you have to really push for it. When I first started off, so my Instagram page, which is at GS Cosplays, I started it off with like pretty much everything that I was doing. So I had some of my Spider-Man stuff. I had some of the Mortal Kombat stuff that I was working on at the time. And then I
Hmm.
realized that only really my Spider-Man stuff was working out. So I kind of, pushed the focus on that to try to get more people and then eventually build up my business. So you kind of really have to just go with what's working. And for me, it was the Spider-Man stuff. So that's kind of why I specialize on that. Um, some of the cons of being a prop maker is that not everything will always go perfectly. Um, Last December, I did a like a Christmas sale on my Etsy page, which
Okay.
is where I host all my models. So right when I put my Christmas sale, I got a bunch of orders and I was slammed
Oh
because
boy.
not only was I had to start cranking out these face shells, but everybody wanted it on a deadline for December. So I mean for Christmas. So I'm trying to work overtime with that, and then I'm working holiday hours at work, and then my printer
Right.
started to act up, and it just in general, if you don't really have the time, I wouldn't recommend it. Um, because if you're not able to crank out your stuff, you're gonna have unhappy people, and unhappy people just it just it doesn't work out. So you try to do your best with what you can, but just always know that you can't truly please everybody in that sense of trying to get everything done as quickly as you can, because we all have our life stuff, we all have work, we all have family. So
Right.
everything's gonna like jumble together. So you gotta try to get the balance of time as best as you can, and not overdo what you can do, like know your limits essentially.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that is one of the biggest cons that I had starting out, because I just went into it like, hey, I'll take every single order that I possibly can and I'll be able to do it, no problem. And then,
Right.
everything got slammed on me at once. And I was like, I don't know how the fuck I'm gonna do this. Um, so I had to take a break. I took a pretty long break after that, because I realized that I didn't want to get in that same situation. I didn't want to make other people upset with not being
Right.
able to deliver, as I would have hoped to.
Hmm.
So that's another thing, like just going back and like limiting yourself and knowing what you can do, and then going from that. So like whether it's only taking a couple orders when you know that you can, or making stuff beforehand and then listing that when you had it ready to ship out. So that's something that like I learned very quickly, and that I'm gonna be using when I decide to open shop again. Um,
Right. Yeah, like kind of like what you said with like, knowing your limits and don't push yourself farther or harder than you really need to. Like I feel like that's really important because I used to and still do that same exact thing where I expect too much out of myself, and like I'm a natural yes man. Like
yeah,
I want to say yes to everyone, um, and I have waking nightmares, figuratively speaking, about all of a sudden getting like a bunch of Patreon donors or a bunch of like listeners like demanding certain things, and all of a sudden like I'm hit from all different sides like with all these demands, and all of a sudden all of a sudden I have no free time whatsoever, and
yeah,
like all of my like I have to start ignoring family members
yeah. No,
and,
it definitely happens.
yeah, and, like, so I'm, like, terrified of that happening, like, I mean, would it be kinda cool in theory to, like, have that all of a sudden happen? Like, maybe, but like you said, it's at the same time, like, it's clearly can drive you insane.
Yeah,
Having all of a sudden having, like, no free time on your hands and having to, like, having all these people demanding things on a certain timeline. So yeah, I definitely get that. It's not necessarily something that has happened to me coincidentally, but uh, uh, as far as like people demanding things from me, but like it has happened in terms of kind of like what I was saying about me expecting too much out of myself, like
yeah,
and not giving myself enough slack. So yeah, kind of what you were saying about, make sure you give yourself a break and cut yourself some slack every once in a while and give yourself frequent breaks. My motto is whenever you tell yourself that you don't deserve a break, that's when you need the break the most.
mm,
Um, because that just means that your head's gonna fucking explode like any
yeah.
second.
No, I like that.
Yeah, it's something that I use every day. Sometimes I have a hard time taking my own advice, but
Oh,
um,
I'm on the same boat with that.
yeah, I think it's just part of the human condition where we can dole out advice all day long, but when it comes to swallowing our own medicine, we're it's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know
Uh,
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to
no,
cut you
no,
off.
no. I was done. Go ahead.
So I know for me, like when I first started out, when I was like at the point where I'm like, oh, I can open up shop, I can start taking orders. I got this. I got it in my head. I had this. There was nothing that was gonna stop me. And then I opened the page. I started getting a couple orders. Everything was going great, and then I got to the point where I was getting, not to say I was ungrateful. I'm not ungrateful whatsoever, but I was getting too many orders, and I was just getting so far behind. I was frustrated and flustered because I just wasn't able to keep up with it.
Hmm.
And because of that, you get to a certain point where something that you had fun and you started enjoying could quickly turn into something that you just cannot stand.
Yes.
And then at that point, once you get to that point, you have to take a break, because if you don't, you're just not going to come back to it. And that's not something I wanted to do. I wanted to come back to it better than ever, knowing
Right.
that I would be able to handle it next time compared to where I was before, where I wanted to throw my 3D printers out the window because I literally had days where every single time I went to print out a shell, if there wasn't the power shutting off randomly or the print getting knocked off the bed, which is very common,
Mhm.
or like under extrusion of the plastic, it was always something that would prevent me from continuing on to be able to push out these orders. And it just got super frustrating. So I told myself if I can't if I just couldn't do it, I had to take a break until I was able to, and that's exactly what I did.
Man, like you are miles ahead of a lot of people out there. Like, and I'm not trying to put people down. I'm just saying, like, in terms of you, like understanding what it takes to run like a side gig and do it successfully. Like do it to a point where, like, will it feel like work from time to time? Like absolutely, but to moderate it in such a way where it doesn't feel like work all the time and that you still derive passion from it.
Yeah,
And it really feels like um, you've struck that balance, or you're at least on the cusp of striking that balance. It sounds like.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and like that's, it's not easy like running a business or running a side gig or side hustle, what have you. It's, I mean, there's just so much that goes on underneath the surface, like, um, the old term, tip of the iceberg. Like that's so true for like the things that were once hobbies and now you're wanting to go, um, uh, for lack of a better word, sell out with it. You want to make some money with it. Because like the Joker said, if you're good at something, never do it for free. And so, you want to make a little bit of cash, but you at the same time don't want to ever have it get to the point where it feels like work for you.
Mhm.
You still want it to be enjoyable. And that's, I feel like that's a thing that you don't really understand until you dive into this like
Yeah,
sector.
I think if you're not like in that position where something that you love to become something that you quickly just you can't deal with it,
Uh-huh.
you just it's hard to understand unless you're in that position
Right.
because I think we all have things that say a hobby or whatever that we want to become our career or our future, but you just have to know how to get into it and just prepare yourself before you throw yourself into it and then eventually like it gets to the point where you just don't want to do it and uh, that I think that's like a little heartbreaking,
Hmm.
especially for me. When I was at like the biggest point where I was so frustrated that I wasn't capable of doing things to the quality that I know I was able to because of, for example, time constraints or people being upset and demanding yada yada. Um, it, I think I don't know. I wish I could go back and do it again with what
Hmm.
I know now, and then
Right.
maybe I wouldn't like have gotten to the point where I wanted to quit. Um, so it's just really like knowing what you could do, knowing your limit.
Yeah.
Just stick with your gut, and
Right.
don't try to take on the mountain before climbing the little hill.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's so important is knowing your limits and giving yourself breaks, cutting yourself some slack. Like I can't tell you like countless times I have wanted to throw my podcasting gear in the fucking garbage, and just call it quits because like, in between like my kids and my other obligations and other things that I do with my life. Like sometimes it just gets to the point where I'm like shit. Like, can I even do this anymore? Like, can I juggle this and
Hmm.
push forward with it and give it like the attention that the show deserves?
Yeah.
Um, And sometimes like I'll get to the point of just complete exhaustion and be like, I don't think I can do it anymore. But like the next morning I wake up with a fresh head and I'm like, that fucking David 12 hours ago fucking sucks.
Let's fucking
Like,
do this.
yeah, let's pedal to the metal, like, crank up some fucking like Motley Crue or ACDC and get this shit going.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Nah, it's all about, perspective, and like you said, like I've said, giving yourself breaks and cutting yourself slack. Um,
A step
it's
back will always do a
yes,
lot better than continuing to step forward in a path that will
yes,
eventually lead to failure.
yes. Well said. Well said.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. I'll be here all week. So with all the things that you've been doing with your costume designing and your prop making and all that, like what would you say your biggest goal is, like, or goals, like short term and long term moving forward? Is it like building up the business side of it, or um what yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, as far as for me, like for now, it's just keeping it to just occasionally doing things, taking like random orders and whatnot.
Sure.
But in the future, would I love to go full time with it? Fuck yeah,
Yeah.
that would be awesome. Or even potentially like working with companies for like TV commercials or movies or whatever, doing costumes or props or whatever for that.
Hell yeah.
That would be like a dream come true, to be honest. Honestly, anything to get me out of retail, just get me out.
Dude, I have been there. I have been in the retail world. I know how much it is. Well, I don't have to tell you.
Yeah, it
um
it
yeah.
does its job. It gives you, it brings a paycheck. That's all I can
Yes,
say.
yeah, it gives you a paycheck. It most certainly does. Have you ever given thought to like going to school for like, I don't know if like theater with an emphasis and like costume design or prop making or anything? I don't know if anything like that exists, but have you given any thought into that, or if that holds any merit within the costume and prop making world?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I would love to. I haven't done like any real research into it. I have researched like companies and like how you would even land a job and like,
Right.
obviously like building a portfolio and whatnot with that. I think it would be a little bit trickier for me because I'm kind of working off of licensed stuff like Spider-Man and whatnot.
Sure.
I'm not too sure how they would feel about that if I went to like Disney and like, hey, give me a job. I make Spider-Man stuff, and then they're like, what? You owe us some money. Um, uh, but no, yeah, that'd be awesome. I would definitely love to do something like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's like I said, I don't know exactly how you would get into that, but it seems like a lot of professions are evolving to the point where you don't have to go to school for it.
Yeah,
Like with the resources that are available online, like self education has become, it's evolved to the point where it's unrecognizable to where it was like even like 10 years ago. Like, the idea of teaching yourself something from using online tools was like a pretty abstract concept. And now it's like, well, fucking duh, like you can teach yourself anything
yeah.
using the internet.
All you have to
Um,
do is go onto YouTube and whatever you
right.
need, just type it in, and you got 4,000 people explaining it to you in like 5 minutes tops.
Yeah, and God bless those people of YouTube that feel that like they can take a few minutes out of their day to make a video explaining how they did something. Like, God bless them because
Yeah, seriously, I
uh
don't think half of us would be where we are without it.
right,
Like, there's so many just like random channels that I've subscribed to over the years that I will like even now go back and reference because I've learned like 70% of my stuff, if not more, just from random YouTube videos.
right. Yeah, they are truly the unsung heroes of the do it yourself world.
Yeah.
It's quite incredible. Um, so let's move on to the last segment, and it's just cosplay tips.
Easy.
And we'll start with just some general advice, like so for listeners that may have like a little bit less experience with cosplay, um yeah, just cosplay in general, not necessarily like the DIY side,
Hmm.
that they may have some interest in getting into it, um and maybe some things that like you would have known, you wish you would have known before getting into cosplay. You want to talk about a couple pieces of advice regarding those few things?
Yeah, for sure. The biggest like general advice that I could give you is if you're interested in doing something, just do it. Um, Whether like you want to start off small or big, just dip your toes into it because you never know. Uh, it might end up changing your life, like it pretty much did for me.
Hmm.
Um, I knew nothing about it. I saw one person, and you know, from there it brought me to where I am now, where I'm actually making my own stuff. So you never know unless you try it. And anybody that like might be persuaded or by other people or even by themselves about like cosplaying a certain character that doesn't really fit your physical build or your skin tone or ethnicity or whatnot, fuck them. Just do it.
Yes, yes,
Just fucking do it because
yeah,
I cosplay Spider-Man and I do not fit the build. Um, I do it because it makes me happy. So fuck it, do it.
right, yeah. Fuck, just fucking do it. Like I don't know if Nike like has a trademark on just fucking do it.
But we
But
did it. We're
right.
trademarking it right now.
Yeah, that's a verbal trademark. Just fucking do it. No, but you're right though. Like, I mean, is it important to keep in mind, like to like you said, just dip your toes in at first? Probably. Like, if you have the resources, time, money, etc., to dive in head first into the plunging cold, uh, go for it.
Yeah.
More power to you, and I hope it works out truly. But yeah, like you, if you don't have an abundance of time and resources and money, etc., then yeah, it's probably a good idea to take it slow and figure out what works and what doesn't. Kind of uh, learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
That's one of my biggest I don't know, things that I advocate for is I learn so much better from my mistakes than I do from successes. Like, I can pull things from my successes, like joy that something finally worked out in my favor. But yeah, like uh, yeah, learning from your mistakes and failures, like it just sticks. So you're like, oh yeah, I'll never fucking do that again.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
also, yeah.
oh, sorry. I feel like I'm like prime example for that.
Uh-huh.
Like going back to when we were talking about like the first cosplay, with all the mistakes that I made in my first one, I know not to make them with my newest one. And yes, do I wish I knew all that stuff before? Of course.
Hmm.
But if I didn't make those mistakes in the first place, I wouldn't have gotten to where I am. So I'm still grateful for those. So just don't be afraid to make mistakes too, um,
For
because
sure.
you're only gonna learn from them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And mistakes is just making them is just part of the process. Like, it's unavoidable. And the more you try to not make mistakes, the more probable that they're going to happen.
Yeah, very
uh,
true.
it's been my own personal experience. I know a lot of people can. You might be able to echo the same. So
Hmm.
yeah.
I know for
Uh,
sure I can.
Right, for sure. And also, like, I think you have an excellent build for Spider-Man. Like, I mean, you seem pretty tall from your pictures on Facebook. And like, it seems like you have a pretty accurate build to what Peter Parker traditionally is.
Yeah,
Like,
he tends to be on like the taller but like skinnier side. So I guess yeah, I can see that a little bit. Um,
I mean, I know
But
we're always our harshest critic.
yeah,
You
no,
know,
that's for sure.
so we never want to give us the credit that we fully deserve. So that's why we try and surround ourselves with positive people to push ourselves up. And that's not me like giving myself a pat on the back. Like as I said that, I was like, God, it sounds like I'm like jerking myself off from
What
here.
a dick. No.
Right, right, exactly. Like no pun intended. But yeah, no, it's yeah, another little positive tidbit. Surround yourself with positive people. Um,
Yeah,
but
that's definitely a big thing. If you
yeah,
have good people around you, and especially people that are, supportive of what you're doing,
hmm,
that's definitely another big step because there's a lot of people that don't have like that kind of backbone, and then will quickly
yes,
fall out of something because they
hmm,
don't have that. So even if you find one person, just revel in that because they'll always have your back. They'll keep you pushing forward.
yeah, yeah. Like, I mean, I try and talk about this as much as possible, just to annoy the shit out of people. But like, I have the greatest support system. I a support system that I don't think I really deserve. But 98% of that is like coming from my wife. And she like if I say something uh, like I really want to do this, but like I don't have the materials for it or whatever. She's like, why the fuck are we not on the way to like Joann's or Hobby Lobby or something like right now? Like, let's get in the car and let's get this shit. All right, because I need stuff from there too, anyways.
That's
And,
awesome.
yeah, so it's cool to have that kind of support if you can find it. And if you don't, like there are plenty of resources online, like plenty of subreddits, plenty of Facebook groups, um, what have you, message boards, if those are still a thing. I'm like
Yeah.
100 years old.
No,
Uh,
no, for sure. There's a website called the RPF, which is
okay,
it's a website literally dedicated just to costume and prop making.
okay,
So it's for everything, not just like Marvel stuff, DC movies, comic books, everything that you can imagine. You pretty much find somebody that's either willing to help or is asking for help, and you could kind of work together and build from there.
that's awesome. Yeah, and you said it's called the RPF.
Yeah, rpf.com. You
Right
could
on.
just Google it. It'll be the first thing that will pop up.
Sure. Yeah, that's awesome. Very good to know for me and for all the listeners that might be interested in getting into cosplay. As far as like where to buy, like I know this is a question that I had a lot. Like I had a lot of different questions at the beginning when I first started cosplaying, like
Hmm.
where to buy. Like you have like your quote unquote big box chains. You have Amazon and some uh, other like really well known places, and then there's other online stores that are basically just online, and then they operate out of like this huge warehouse
Yeah.
where they make stuff. Um, do you want to talk a little bit about like the pros and cons of each, and maybe like if you're interested in getting started with cosplay, like some good places to start?
Yeah. So pros and cons of like stuff like Amazon, Wish, AliExpress. They have cheap suits on there. You'll notice that they're very cheap compared to like other places. So you'll get them
Yep.
for like $30, $40,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit up from there. But the con of that is that the patterns that they're using, they're not paying the pattern makers. So they're really just like stealing the patterns from like people like Joel House, who has House of J costumes,
Mm-hmm.
Web Warrior Workshop, Mask for Your Task, Heroes Artists, just a bunch of pattern makers that unfortunately their patterns are stolen and they're just mass produced and they sell the costumes for super cheap. So it just doesn't help the artists.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to go to websites like Zentai Zone or the RPC Studio, which are like the two big ones, Heroes Time as well,
Right.
you can buy the costumes from there. They range from like if you get it from Zentai Zone, it's about like $90 to like $120, depending on if you do any of like their add-ons for like the upgraded fabric and zippers
Right.
and extra masks and stuff like that. But it's worth it because one, the pattern makers are being supported, so they'll
Mm-hmm.
pay the pattern makers for using their patterns,
Yep.
if you don't provide it yourself already. And then the costume is made specifically for you.
Yes.
So you put your custom measurements in. If you have bigger biceps and smaller triceps or whatever, they'll accommodate for that. So the costume will literally fit you like a glove, like it should.
Yes.
Um, and then you could also go to stuff like Etsy, and I don't really know if people like post their stuff on like eBay or whatnot, but I know Etsy is like the big one. That's what I personally use.
Right.
So you could get pretty much anything on there. You could get facial models if you have your own 3D printer and you want to print them yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
could buy patterns from people on Etsy. You could even buy custom suits from Etsy, from certain people that they use that as their platform to making custom suits. And then you can also like buy like face shells made and shipped, web shooters, all that stuff. So any of like the extra prop stuff you could get from Etsy, including the suits itself. I would recommend going to Zentai Zone, Heroes Time, or RPC for the studios, purely on the fact that they are supporting the artists. Because at the end of the day, we put in the work. Uh, they should be compensated for that as well, because
Right.
what they do is insane. Like pattern making is no joke. I recently just dipped my toes into it, and I learned quickly that it is not as easy as some people may think. Lining up seams and making sure colors are right, and it's it's crazy. So props to them.
Yeah, man, I don't envy that. Like I thought about it for like a quick second and I was like, "David, are you fucking crazy? Like you already have zero time on your hands." Like yeah, I but it seems like if I did have time for it, like it would be frustrating amounts of fun.
Yeah,
Like it would drive me nuts, but it would probably be pretty rewarding in
yeah,
the end. So yeah, my hats off to you. I tip my cap to you, sir, for having the courage to dip your toes into um the suit designing realm of cosplay. It's I know it's not just like everything else, and anything else with cosplay, DIY. It's not super simple. But yeah, I definitely want to echo what you said about like Zentai Zone and RPC, and Heroes Time, and everyone else on Etsy. Like they take like so much pride in their work. Like uh, the suits are made overseas. I believe they're made in primarily like Thailand and other provinces of China,
yeah.
and they do exceptional work. Like it is off the charts good. Like
Hmm.
kind of like you said about you being able to put in your custom measurements. Like I think you pay like 10 or $20 extra, and they'll like custom sew the suit for you to your exact measurements. In my opinion, and I'm sure you will echo this, like 100% worth it. Like to get your suit and have it fit like a glove, like it was made for you because it was. Like it's just it makes you that much more excited and passionate about cosplaying and cosplaying as that character. Because it just fits you so well, and you're like, fuck yeah, like I'm gonna go fight some crime right fucking now.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
don't do that. Don't
Yeah,
don't do that.
I'm definitely not advocating for like going out and like trying to beat up strangers that are like robbing banks or whatever. Like I'm not advocating for that, but
But it
like
definitely does make you feel like you're possible. Like that's an option after you
right.
have it, because you feel good, you feel great. It's made for you,
Yeah,
and I don't know. It kind of plays into the idea of feeling like you're embodying that character, but
for
it's
sure.
also it's still you. You are that person now at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this it's another one of those really fun things about cosplay where get out what you want to put into it. So
Yeah,
if you just want to represent that character in on a costume level, that's cool too. If you want to go, full out, ball swinging, it's just totally method act that character, then also more
do it.
power to you. Yeah, yeah, do it. Hey, do it.
I do it,
um
man.
uh last thing, some DIY advice. I know you touched on a couple things throughout the episode, but is there any other like final advice as far as the DIY realm of cosplay goes, like things that you would suggest as far as like products or tools to use, resources, etc.
Yeah, for sure. When starting off, I think the biggest tool that you can use are the people online. So, like
Okay.
I said, when I mentioned the RPF, um, literally just post, and you'll get like at least like 10, 20 people giving advice on things that they've done,
Hmm.
and to step you in the right direction. So um, yeah, biggest tool, other people. You can go on Facebook, like for example the Spider Society group that me and you met on. um, you meet so many people on there, and those people are specifically for that one category, but there's hundreds of other groups that you can join for whatever you're looking for. And everybody is happy to help and guide you in the right direction. As far as tools, I guess it's not so much of a tool, but a place to go to. A couple places that I personally love for all this stuff: the freaking dollar store. Go to the dollar store for everything.
Yeah.
Um, I use a lot of sandpaper, so you get sandpaper for like stupid cheap if you're doing any 3D printing stuff.
Right.
Also, like Home Depot and like Michaels and stuff like that for craft foam, and
Hmm.
even some type of fabrics. You can go to Hobby Lobby if you have any of those around you guys. Um, Definitely great places, and the people there are pretty helpful. If you ask them like what you're attempting to do, they'll typically help you out there too.
Right.
Um, yeah, think of anything else.
Yeah,
Uh,
I went to Joanne's this past weekend, and everyone like it was one of the very first weeks that it has been open since everything kind of shut down for quarantine, like
mhm.
for the last couple of months. So I wasn't exactly sure like what the vibe was going to be like, if it was going to be super crowded. And I walked in, and it was pretty much just like any other regular day at
Yeah,
Joanne's, as far as foot traffic, as far as the people that were in there. Like I think most of the employees were wearing masks, but like the dude that cashed me out, he was like, "All right, what are we making this afternoon or this weekend or whatever? Or what are you working on?" And I told him about like making your Spider or Miles Morales stickers, and then
uh-huh.
making my Geek Garage podcast t-shirts. And he was like, "Oh, okay, right on." And I showed him your picture, and I was like, "This is not my work. Like he did it. Like he is the master. Like it's not me, but this is what the sticker's gonna look like when it's done." And he's like, "All right, that's awesome." So yeah, like um it's fun to have those like little random chats with people in like Joanne's or Hobby Lobby, because most likely they're there for very very similar reasons,
Yeah,
to get stuff, to make stuff. And although it might not be cosplay that like you're possibly working on, but it's making something from scratch. And that's we're all coming from the same place, trying to do uh this thing, make things.
yeah.
uh I know I did such a great job of being very articulate with but yeah, anyways, yeah. Anything else that you want to throw out there? Any advice or any other talking points you want to hit on?
um, I mean, just if you're trying to get into anything, just believe in yourself. Um, give yourself a little, breathing room if you need it, if you ever
Hmm.
need a backup. Um, like I said, taking a step back is always going to be better than rushing into something.
For sure.
Um, if you ever need anything, just don't ever be worried about reaching out to somebody, whether it be a group, just anybody that you see online that are pursuing like a similar thing, because more than likely they will at least point you in the right direction and try to help you out as best as they can. Um, and then in turn, turn around and do that for somebody else, hopefully later on down the road.
R-
Um, just keep on doing you. Believe in yourself, and
Yeah.
like we said, trademarked. Just fucking do it.
Just fucking do it. Gabe, it's been an absolute fucking pleasure having you on. And it's so great to finally like talk to you um vocally instead of just text. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been a real treat and a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a
Yeah.
blast.
Absolutely. I hope you can come back on sometime in the near future. Maybe we can do a Spider-Man specific episode. Hopefully we didn't make this episode too Spider-Man specific for the people that wanted to hear stuff that wasn't just about Spider-Man.
We should just name it DIY cosplay. Just kidding. It's all Spider Man.
I gotcha. Tricked you again. No, I think that my established listeners, all three of them, they've come to expect a certain amount of like going the fuck off the rails, like in the most extreme way, where it starts off in one direction, it's like, oh, they went over there in another direction. Okay, well, why do I still listen to them?
Hey, as one of those three listeners,
Yes, thank
I
you.
agree.
Yeah. Hey, all that matters is that you have fun with it.
Yeah, for sure.
And like we've said collectively during this episode, fuck the haters. They don't
Yeah,
matter. Yeah, all that matters is that you're having fun and you do the thing. So but yeah, like I
very
said, once again, thank you so much for coming on. I hope we can do it again soon. Listeners, if you have made it this far, like I said, thank you, and I'm sorry. And uh, if you have not yet subscribed to the podcast, I ask that you do. We're pretty much on every single podcast app that exists. If there's not one, then kindly let me know, and I will do my best to rectify that. And yes, we are on Spotify. We
yes.
we have our new Facebook group. It's called Geek Garage Podcast Fans and Listeners. Um, Everything still gets posted on our regular Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram, but the Facebook group is where a lot of fun stuff goes down. Like we'll have like weekly polls and interesting conversations where people get really intense and passionate about certain fandoms and whatnot. And it's a lot of fun, usually good, clean fun. No punches are thrown. So far. So yeah, if you're interested in participating in any of that, search for that group on Facebook. If you're into the idea of giving money to artists to pursue their passions, and so they can like continue to do it and not have to continuously dip into their own pockets, we have a Patreon account with a couple tiers, and tiers starting at only $2. So if you're, like I said, into the idea of giving near strangers money on a monthly basis, then you can most certainly find the Geek Garage podcast on Patreon and become one of our donors. We have, like I said, a couple tiers with some really cool perks. So check us out on there. And yeah, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, be kind, stay geeky, and eat lots of cheesecake. Bye.
Bye.